Good morning. Okay, that's why you don't give me a gas. I'd like to call to order the Portsmouth Port and Industrial Commission meeting for August 24th, 2021. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
As for a roll call,
All right, good morning, everyone. Ms. Allen,
present.
Ms. Mateo,
Here.
Ms. McSwain, Mr. Parr,
Here.
Mrs. Rogers Garner,
Present.
and Mr. Williams.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum. And then
Ms. McSwain, good morning. Okay, next on the agenda, approval of the minutes of July 27th, 2021.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion for approval and a second. Any potential amendments or anything to the minutes? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. Mateo,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Ms. Rogers Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have the ratification of the electronic meeting minutes. This was something that we carried over from last month.
Move for adoption.
Second. Okay, we have mover for adoption and a second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. Mateo,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Ms. Rogers Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful, thank you. On to our financial report for July 2021. Good morning, Ms. Phillips.
Good morning. This is going to be a very, very short review because not much happened in July. You'll see you had an increase in your cash account of $45. Everything else remained the same. Your cash sitting at the end of July at $1,052,411. If you scroll on down to the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes, you'll see nothing happened on the operating revenues, operating expenses. We had some investment income. That's it. Okay, and I'm not going to go through the budget to actual because really nothing's happened unless you have questions. But other than that, be happy to answer any kind of questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Phillips? Bearing no questions, thank you so much for that report. On to our old business, bylaw amendment. We are changing our time. It was voted on that we move our meeting time from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. So it's time for a roll call vote. Oh, yes, sir. I apologize. May I have a motion to amend the bylaws, changing our meeting time from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m.?
Go ahead. So moved.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Allen,
No.
Ms. Mateo,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Ms. Rogers Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Our new meeting times will begin at 9 a.m. Financial Services, our ad hoc committee, Ms. Bethea and Mr. Parr.
Sure. So the treasurer and I were tasked with going to financial institutions and benchmarking the use of public funds. We'd like to be able to present. Mr. Moore, could you put up the?
Yeah, we were not able to, if I'm not mistaken, we were not able to get that on the screen, I think because of the format it was in from Google Docs.
Since it's a Google Slides, we can't open that. I was able to get the other one open.
Yeah.
The other PowerPoint did open?
For the video, but not the financial.
Not the Google Sheets. Okay, well, here, I'll send it to everybody right now. We benchmarked some different services. I'll send this to the whole board. Give me 1 second.
So what he's sending in the spreadsheet, it has the banks that we were looking at, what accounts we were looking at with them, if they have like an interest rate bearing account, like if the money will gain interest sitting in there, security, like so we don't have any security breaches with the money, and then also like where their headquarters are, just like specific information that we would know starting off. We would like y'all to look at the information. We did have Ms. Phillips that we talked to as well. regarding some stuff that she can go over with the board, and then we can see where we want to go with it.
It's the recommendation of
Right.
the subcommittee to not necessarily move our funds to another financial institution, even though there could be significant gains between $5,000 to $10,000 more in additional interest with another financial institution. Rather go with this idea from the Department of Finance that we pool our funds with the city treasury to get the highest interest rate of 1.2%, while we maintain a small bank account at our current institution for property transfers. And so things that we do when we acquire or dispose of property, the checks can be written from the authority, from the PPIC, but the city can just wire us money as necessary. And then this also is best practice as we understand it. But Ms. Phillips, could you go a little bit more in
I think you
detail?
did a great job of describing that. The treasurer, because of the large amount of money, $100+ million that he invests, he can make a decision about where to get the best return. And of course, he has the power of large sums. He'll consider there's something at the state level called the local government investment pool that also does pooling. So he makes the decision where that is. From our side, we account for the PPIC as a separate fund. And we just simply would allocate the interest each month. Right now, we have to record interest separately from your bank account. So net administrative work is probably slightly less. And for those of y'all that don't know, the PPIC is what they call a component unit of the city of Portsmouth, and we will have a column in our annual audit that includes PPIC. Just so you know, it is and I'm speaking out of my, didn't go to law school here, but it's my understanding that PPIC is a legally separate entity. However, it is tied to the city. The city can control, appoints the board members and so forth. So that kind of qualifies it as that component unit. So anything else I need to go into?
No, for clarity's sake, please, again, what is your position, your recommendation?
So we looked at 8 different institutions, regional, national, local, ranging from institutions here in Virginia to companies like Wells Fargo, BB&T, trying to get the best rates. The best rate that we were able to get quoted to us was, I think, 0.34%. Whereas with the pooling with the city treasury, we could get up to 1.2%, reduce the administrative burden, and then just maintain our separate bank account for legal purposes when we're acquiring and disposing of property. Nothing would change on our access to those funds. The city would not be able to, I guess, raid those funds and use them for other things. They belong to the PPIC. So it was the subcommittee's recommendation to the board to move forward with Ms. Phillips' proposal in pooling the funds with the city.
Right.
Mr. Moore, do you want to add anything?
No, we agree with Ms. Phillips. I had a conversation after she had this conversation with the ad hoc committee, so we agree. I think we need a vote, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, so the proposal is to maintain a small bank account.
Right.
Is there a particular range that we're looking at on that?
Whatever it is to avoid fees.
Yeah,
At our
whatever
current
that level
institution.
is to avoid fees. That's what I would agree. I don't know if that's 50,000 or whatever that number is. We can dig into that and make that decision.
Okay. Yes, Chair, I think it'd be appropriate to take a vote on accepting the committee's recommendation.
Okay. May I have a motion to accept the committee's recommendation regarding our financial services?
I move that we accept the ad hoc committee's recommendation of moving our funds and pooling with the city, leaving a balance that will not cause any fees in our account.
Second. We have a move for adoption and a second. Are there any discussions, questions, or concerns?
What was the name of the institution again?
That we are currently with
Atlantic
Atlantic Union
Union.
Bank.
Okay, and that's where we're going to stay?
Right, it won't change.
Okay.
And they are located in Richmond, Virginia.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Barring none, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. Bethea,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, the EDA retreat on September 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mr. Moore.
Yes, it's just a reminder that in September 21st, following the EDA's regular meeting, we will have the EDA retreat in this location here. So we're looking forward to a great discussion as far as the EDA really honing in their strategic plan on what they want to move forward with over the next 12 to 18 months. Again, they have extended the invitation to the PPIC to attend and be a part of the discussion. So we just want to remind you about that, and we look forward to it. It could go to as late as 3 o'clock. We do have a hard stop at 3 o'clock, but say 10 to 2, 10 to 3 is the time frame.
Anyone have any suggestions, questions, or concerns regarding that? Thank you, Mr. Moore. Joint PPIC EDA meeting on September 28th. Mr. Moore.
Yes, just a reminder, on the 28th, you would have your regular PPIC meeting, and then we would have a roll call and have the EDA join, and you all would have a joint meeting following, again, your PPIC meeting. So again, potentially going to a 10 o'clock time frame, 11 o'clock, because your meeting will be at 9. So 9 to 10, your regular meeting, then essentially 10 o'clock on would be the joint meeting. What I would ask is that if you have any topics that you'd like to discuss at the joint meeting, that you all send it to the vice chair and the chair so they can get those to us. We have asked the EDA to do the same.
Okay. When we have the pre-meeting, will the EDA chair be joining us and the vice chair be joining us as we have a discussion around the agenda for that joint meeting?
Yes, that is the plan.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or concerns regarding that?
I had mentioned the idea of doing a mixer afterwards, but I think in lieu of that, we're going to see how the Virginia Maritime Association mixer goes, where it's already planned, it's not city funds. So just for the record to sort of
Disregard
lay
that.
yeah, disregard, lay
Okay.
that to bed.
Thank you. Brian, no other questions or concerns? Next up, the PPIC Incentive Program Ad Hoc Committee Update. Vice Chair Rogers Garner and Mr. Williams.
No updates.
Okay, no updates at this time. Thank you. Next on the agenda, 3920 Burton Point Road Property Maintenance. Say that 4 times.
We'll have Mr. Brian Donahue.
Mr. Donahue, good morning.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. I believe we have a couple of slides, if we can pull this up. Thank you. You have previously discussed the maintenance requirements of the PPIC property at 3920 Burgess Point Road. We have previously obtained pricing for cutting the grass and maintaining the gravel cap on the property. These are things that are required not just from a property maintenance standpoint, but also as part of our agreements with the EPA and Virginia DEQ related to the Superfund site and some of the conditions that are present on the property. And we had received pricing from a local contractor in the amount of $340 per month to cut the grass twice a month and to treat the weeds on the gravel cap, which is quite important. The PPIC had asked us to go out and obtain some additional pricing, which, working through our procurement office, we have done. We solicited pricing from 4 other companies here in the area. 2 of those that were contacted were non-responsive. We had 2 that came out to provide pricing. One of those declined based on the conditions of the property. There's a lot of rock out there. I think they had some concerns about their equipment. But we did receive 1 additional price that was $2,400 a month. So quite a difference between the other price we had initially received. And again, that was for cutting twice a month and treating the weeds on the cap. I'm happy to answer any of the questions you may have.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Donahue regarding the property maintenance?
The previous quote was $340.
$340.
And the quote we received was $2,400.
Yes, so $1,000 per cut, so that was 2 cuts per month, and then a $400 cost on top of that to treat the weeds.
Why is this so much of a difference? Is it because of the relationship we have with the first person or?
We have an existing contract.
Right,
with
that's
the
what I was
city and
thinking,
They
yeah.
cut the EDA's properties. I suspect because they are in the area cutting those properties.
They probably,
have the
okay,
ability to
it's a big gap.
handle our property as well without much difficulty.
Yeah.
Any other discussion regarding the property maintenance on Burton's Point Road, 3920? Barring none, I take it that we are going to be voting to accept the original proposal, correct?
Yes. We should do a vote, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's technically necessary, but I'd go ahead and do a vote just
Just in
to
case.
accept, yeah.
Okay.
Did they already do the initial cut? I know we had
They were
spoken
due.
about that.
Yes,
They
They
did,
did.
okay.
Okay, so I am asking for a motion to continue the relationship we already have with our current property maintenance vendor for the 3920 Burton Point Road property maintenance.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional conversation regarding this? Barring none, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. Bethea,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Paul,
Yes.
Ms. Rogers Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. On to our new business.
You don't have any new business, Chair.
No new business. Closed session need,
Yes, we do have a need to go into closed session, I believe. Mr.
Vice
Rogers.
Chair.
I move to go into closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711, A.6, for the purpose of discussing the investment of public funds where a competition or bargaining is involved, where if made public initially, the financial interests of the commission would be adversely affected, specifically regarding Port Host Communities Grant and pursuant to Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711, A.3, for the purpose of discussing the disposition of real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically regarding 3920 and 3930 Burton's Point Road.
Need a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. Bethea,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Paul,
Yes.
Ms. Rogers Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries. We are in closed session.
This conference will now be recorded.
Vice Chair.
Okay. I hereby move that each commissioner certify that to the best of his or her knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just concluded.
Thank you.
Yes.
Second. Okay.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. Bethea, Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Paul,
Yes.
Ms. Rogers Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
We're in open session.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that Ms. Bethea had to leave us this morning, but we still continue to have a quorum, correct, Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Yeah, and in regard to that, Madam Chair, I'd just like to state that because she's not here, she's not able to make that certification right now, but we will follow up with her and get her to make the certification, just
Thank
for the
you.
record.
Thank you. Okay, Port of Virginia update.
Yes, we do not have a Port of Virginia update this morning. They are currently in Richmond at the IPF forum and convention.
Okay. We now move forward to items submitted by commissioners.
I do want to just go on record that we add on the next agenda protocols where we're able to discuss those.
Duly noted, Vice Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Parr?
Did we receive a response from the EPA on having Mr. Sturgeon come and speak about the Superfund site?
We did not for this meeting. We are trying to get them for the September meeting. I believe there was an email that went out previously to the chair and vice chair. We received that slightly later than we would typically. So there were a number of items that just to address that you sent, Mr. Paul, that yeah, we did not have time. So we will have those available and prepared before the next meeting.
And I did send out an email apologizing. It was stuck in my queue. So it did not get to staff in a timely manner, and I apologize for that. Moving forward, I will forward, not from my phone, but from my desktop or laptop.
That was something we discussed in the meeting, though. That wasn't just brought up by my email.
So just addressing that as part of the group. I believe that was one of the questions in that group. So, but we are working. Mr. Sturgeon is out of New York. So it is a matter of getting him down here from a scheduling standpoint to have that meeting with them.
I think virtual would be fine too.
I have to double check, but can we do that?
You can, he can participate virtually.
So,
Yeah. I have the update from the subcommittee on the VMA attendance. Can we
Please.
do that? Yeah. So this year, the Virginia Maritime Association, their theme is the resilient supply chain. And it'll be from September 29th through October 1st, conveniently after our joint meeting with EDA. So we'll be really primed to discuss these topics and represent our city well. The agenda, as far as what we would be learning at this meeting on Wednesday, there's a keynote by the VPA CEO. The VPA maintains 2 sites here in Portsmouth, more than any other locality. But I think that's going to be great to listen to. There's multiple opportunities for networking throughout the day, both the networking at 2 p.m., 4:30 mixer, and there's a simultaneous breakout session. We're going to discuss the recommendations, but it is the hope that at least 2 commissioners could attend both days to be able to have a representative at each session to be able to collect information to come back and present to the commission for our own knowledge and for better strategizing. And Thursday is the full day, starting at 8 a.m. for the breakfast, going all the way to the 7 p.m. banquet. And on that day, there are a number of sessions. There's like 7 different sessions that we would be able to attend about supply chain, regulatory updates, cargo, import, export, things that would really make us an informed body and poised to make good decisions as far as maritime industry is concerned. The cost for a ticket to the symposium, the banquet, and the maritime mixer is $725. If someone is not able to attend, say, the banquet, and they just want to attend the symposium and the maritime mixer, the cost is less. Banquet only is $225. Maritime mixer only is $65. So there are different options depending on the availability of the commissioners. But if you can go to the next slide. But it's our recommendation that any commissioner who can attend both full days, including the mixer and the banquet, that we purchase tickets for those commissioners. If there are any commissioners that cannot commit to attending both full days, just the ticket to the maritime mixer for the purposes of networking. And then we would be expected to report on our findings at the next meeting there in October, so we can share this knowledge with each other. And we would be expected to network our butts off and collect business cards, talk to people, talk about our incentive programs, whatever we can do within the extent of our commissioner positions. So just a quick cost and benefits analysis. A lot of these are intangibles. If all 6 of us commissioners are able to attend, it would be $43.50. If just one is able to attend, it'd be $725. thinking about contacts made in the area, knowledge for this board, as well as our image and perception as a board and as a commission, and then quantifiable. If this could lead to the sale or lease of a property, or someone getting a grant, I mean, the return on the investment of this money would be, in the order of 10. So it was Commissioner McSwain's and I, and my feeling that this would be a good use of PPIC funds. Does anyone know that they would be able to attend if we were able to, if we go for this,
Yeah.
both full days?
I'm not certain on both full days yet. We're waiting for a state survey at my job, so that can be a bit iffy. I can commit firmly to the networking opportunity. So when will be the deadline that we need to commit by?
I spoke to the coordinator and there really is no deadline per se, but the sooner we know, the better our seats.
Is the money already budgeted for this?
No, we would have to take a vote to reallocate funds.
And as a recommendation, what would happen, I think the easiest way to do it would be for staff to register and pay for you all, and then in some way, shape, or form, the money just be refunded back to staff from a standpoint of the budget. But we could put it on a credit card, register. We need to know who would want to be registered for what.
Okay.
And staff can handle the registration, and then just for these, and then we can send you all the information. You would typically go, they have you sign in, you get a name badge, all of those different things, but we can get you signed up.
Okay, thank you.
So I think if you two would send out just the polling to the rest of the commissioners, just to get an idea of who's going to come for what time frame that they're going to come from, and we can move forward from there.
I think we need to take a vote, right? Because this is not, or is this already within a budgeted?
We're not, I think we're not necessarily amending the budget just yet because there is funds there already, correct?
You have $1,000 in your training / travel right now. So what you could do is, again, we could just, once we know what the amount is, after we do the
Polling of
transaction and
the,
the polling, then you could think of a vote for staff.
to amend that.
Okay, so we could get the information, y'all can get us registered like this week.
If you get us information this week.
So then should we do a motion to amend our budget? Do we have to give it an exact amount, or to amend our budget to reflect whatever the amount is for this particular item? How would we need to do that?
I'm not sure there's a set rule about it, but I would suggest a round number. If you want to increase it to $10,000 or something.
What could we say not to exceed, what?
The 4350?
Well, it's a budget which is intended to be general anyway,
Yeah.
so I think you'd be okay.
You may go to another one.
Right.
I was about to say, I would go to the
Okay.
10,000
Yeah.
mark
Yeah.
just for the sake of, in case something else comes up, in that time frame, that we have that money already allotted. So I would ask for a motion to amend our budget to $10,000 for that line item.
So moved.
Second.
Do we know where that's coming from?
Can we move it from our cash operating account?
You would increase your appropriations.
Just straight appropriation?
Yeah,
Okay.
and source would be unrestricted retained earnings, cash. So you're reducing your, but the budget is an estimate to start with.
So we have a motion. It was a second.
I asked
Second.
for a motion,
Okay, sorry.
and then
Yeah, I
it
mean,
was, right. Mhm.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Paul,
yes.
Ms. Rogers Garner,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
All right, motion carried.
Okay, next, any other items?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
I'd like to explore the possibility of a waterfront tour like was done a couple of years ago for the PPIC, and seeing if we can do that after our joint meeting with the EDA, or the either the 21st or the 28th. Would you be able to pull information on that by the special meeting? Or maybe this is something we do in early October?
Yeah, I would suggest it be something we do early October.
Early October, okay.
Because we'd have to figure out if you're doing a boat tour, all 6 individuals, that would technically be, because you probably be talking about potentially PPIC related items.
What we did last time to assuage any concern about that was invite
Right,
someone
the
from the
press.
pilot
Yeah.
to come with us. It was a bit easier to set up last time because one of the board members was actually affiliated with the boat that we were able to
Yeah.
take, so it may take a little bit
It's gonna
longer.
take, yeah, we'd have to figure out where we get it. So yes, staff can look into it and see if we can have some information. At least some information by the joint meeting. Can we have that? I mean, we're only discussing one item.
At the,
It's special meeting. I mean, that's
Special
what I'm
meeting.
sorry, special meeting.
we might be able to send by email.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so we can look into it, and
Yeah.
we'd have to figure out from where, and then figure out a itinerary as well. So I would suggest October, and then, but let staff look into it.
In the same vein, a land fact-finding tour of our properties, and then properties which we have used incentives before in early October. It could be the same day if it works out, but I'm talking about the cold storage facility, Mr. Salmon's property, things around the Jordan Bridge, so we understand. And if the pilot is able to join us that day to assuage any concerns, that would be great.
We can do that.
I visited Savannah for the purposes of being able to compare, a similarly sized port city. So at our next September meeting, I'll have a report on some comparisons, some things that they're doing. I was able to speak with their port authority down there and found out some really interesting things and new strategies that they're using. Hopefully that would be of help for this board. So I'll be sharing that next meeting.
I look forward to that.
It was really cool. I also went to Barcelona, but not such a good comparison.
I look forward to hearing from that too.
Yeah. And then I have a resolution to present for adoption, and I'm not sure if everyone has copies here. So I'll provide them.
Well, while he's doing that, I had the opportunity to attend the Doing Business with Portsmouth electronic event that went on. And I thought it was a pretty good event. A lot of good information was disseminated for businesses that are planning to do business or want to do business with Portsmouth in the future. If you guys have the ability to attend, I got a lot of useful information from it.
Wonderful. So, Mr. Farr, if you would break down this resolution, please.
Sure. So there's a lot of excitement going on about the Dominion wind energy project that's coming to the Portsmouth Marine Terminal, which is great. Obviously, we love any industry that comes to Portsmouth. However, there's a number of maritime installations already within our city that place a pretty large burden on Portsmouth. And these entities are not taxable. Thinking about the Norfolk Naval Shipyard, thinking about the Portsmouth Marine Terminal, our other, the Virginia International Gateway, the Naval Hospital, the Coast Guard. 41% of Portsmouth's land is not taxable. We're kind of stretched for dollars. We're the most fiscally stressed locality, or the 11th most fiscally stressed locality in the state. And so I sort of lay out some issues that have been affecting Portsmouth for a long time. These things are very well known to us. It's constantly repeated. It appears a lot of this language has actually been lifted from the the budget, from the proposed budget. And so trying to find solutions, creative solutions for what we can do as a board with our mission that we were created by the General Assembly. This resolution is just asking to start a conversation with City Council. As you can note, our liaisons are absent. They obviously have a lot of responsibilities, but we feel like as a board, or I feel like as a commissioner, 60 some odd years ago, we were created knowing that Portsmouth was going to have to bear the burden of hosting these ports, hosting these maritime installations. And so they granted Portsmouth this additional authority to be able to levy taxes, do other things to be able to make sure that Portsmouth citizens see the benefit of having these installations within our city limits. If you look at census data, especially the new census data that's just come out, and then numerous other studies that the city has done, that the state has done, the majority of the workers that work at these installations do not reside in Portsmouth. They don't pay property taxes in Portsmouth. I'm not saying that, oh, you're good, that we don't appreciate these industries that are here, that we don't think that they're extremely valuable, and that we don't want them here. I'm saying we want to make sure that when things come to Portsmouth, that Portsmouth citizens, Portsmouth sees a benefit. And this is just asking for a conversation with City Council about the powers of the PPIC, given all of the activity. And then in addition, City Council just sent a resolution to General Assembly asking for relief from the tolls at the downtown tunnel. And this body, with our mission of fomenting, maritime business, those tolls that workers have to pay to cross the Midtown and downtown tunnels are definitely detriments to our business development. And so with this, with us acquiring property and being able to toll perhaps entrances and exits of these installations, right of ways, we could potentially offset the economic burden that falls on the poorest residents in Hampton Roads. And again, none of this is saying we're doing anything. It's just asking for a meeting with City Council, with all of City Council, to be able to discuss this.
Should the resolution be read?
I was going to request that the resolution be read.
Well,
Mr. Parr?
sure. So a resolution urging Portsmouth City Council to explore the conveyance of real property and right-of-ways to the Portsmouth Port and Industrial Commission to exercise its authority to levy tolls, to create funds to foment business development within the city, and potentially offset other toll burdens on Portsmouth citizens. Whereas the Port and Industrial Commission was created in 1954 specifically for Portsmouth with the powers to levy tolls and acquire and dispose of real property for the purpose of fomenting maritime business and ensuring Portsmouth reaps benefits despite the burden of hosting such businesses. And whereas Portsmouth is the 11th most fiscally stressed locality in the state and highest in the Hampton Roads region, as well as the lowest per penny real estate revenue and sales tax revenue per capita among its peers, in addition to a high dependence on debt to finance its capital plan, as well as a high net pension liability. And whereas Portsmouth has the highest percentage of non-taxable real estate in the Commonwealth at 41%, and whereas Portsmouth maritime features have proved vital for industries ranging from defense to international trade, with those occupying the most land being non-taxable state or federal entities, and whereas census data and several studies show that employed persons at the majority of these maritime industries do not reside in Portsmouth, and whereas innovative new projects such as offshore wind at the Portsmouth Marine Terminal will likely follow census data pattern precedents due to the need for high-skilled workers, which Portsmouth is not poised to offer, and whereas host communities of ports and large military installations suffer greater burden on their roads, emergency services, and other city services with little economic return to their citizens, and whereas Portsmouth City Council adopted a resolution on July 27, 2021, respectfully requesting the General Assembly to relieve Portsmouth citizens of the Elizabeth River Crossing contract for the downtown and midtown tunnels, which imposes a disproportionate hardship on Portsmouth residents. And whereas in light of forthcoming energy projects and port expansions, it is a time to address these inequities. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Port and Industrial Commission that it respectfully requests a joint meeting with City Council to discuss the costs and benefits to Portsmouth citizens in regards to the maritime businesses operating within Portsmouth city limits. It respectfully requests a study to be conducted on the feasibility of conveying real property for the purposes of levying tolls on roads leading to or from such maritime installations, and the exploration of how these funds could be used to potentially offset other toll burdens and foment additional business development within Portsmouth, and the resolution will take effect on the date of adoption.
I just have one question. Who would be responsible in the mindset of paying for the cost of a feasibility study?
I think that could come from a discussion with City Council. It could be us, it could be them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Question.
Mr. Moore?
Just from a staff standpoint, because this is the first time we're seeing this. So the question is to begin or the desire of this resolution is for PPIC to begin a discussion with council to potentially or look at the feasibility of tolling the roads leading into and out of the port. Is that what I'm?
Or any installation, not just the port, any
Any
installation inside of Portsmouth.
Okay.
And such as the Naval Hospital.
Yeah.
Going to it.
Naval Hospital,
Maybe.
Norfolk Naval Shipyard, the Coast Guard.
Okay.
Mr. Miller, do you see any issues with the resolution?
I don't see any issues from the standpoint it's the board's prerogative. I certainly think the board has prerogative also to request a meeting with council at such time as you desire, and then it's the council's prerogative to respond to that. I do think, I mean, obviously we haven't researched the issue in great detail. I think it's unlikely that PPIC is going to have the legal authority, despite the charter, to toll, particularly to toll specific installations. But again, it's the board's prerogative.
Any further questions, discussions, concerns, thoughts? Very well. So at this point, just for clarity's sake, Mr. Parr, you'd like us to take a action of voting on the resolution?
Yeah, move for adoption.
Now, would we have to have the resolution placed on the agenda since we are moving, if we move forward for a vote?
I think your item submitted by commissioners is sufficient to cover it. So I think a motion and a second would be sufficient.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt the resolution as stated.
Before we do that, my concern, I do have a concern, and I'm not gonna keep it in. I feel like the individuals that are coming in to over here are being punished with these tolls. I mean, we already have a hard enough time with the toll that we have. I'm not sure if that's fair for us to do. That's my concern when I read it. You know, Bruce, or Mr. Paul always kind of try to back you up, you know, because you have great ideas. But this one, I feel like we're hurting.
It could be just for commercial vehicles. We would have the ability within that conversation to define which specific roads or properties, which kinds of people might have to pay such a toll. It's really just to explore, to be able to address those concerns.
So you're wanting a conversation?
Yeah, because as Mr. Miller has stated, it might not even be feasible at all for the city to say, give us the road. You know, that might not even be possible.
Right.
But we have these powers according to our charter. Seems like we're not using them. A lot of stuff goes around Portsmouth, that we don't necessarily see the benefit of. The resolution from July 27th was purely symbolic, asking the General Assembly to do something for us. The General Assembly gave Portsmouth our commission in 1954 to offset the burden. And I just sort of the long and short of it for me is we don't have to ask for a seat anymore. We can set the table. And so with this conversation starter, I think it will lead to great benefit.
So
And
do
of
we,
course, taking into the concerns about the effect on individual citizens.
so do we have to adopt this resolution to just have a conversation with council?
No, I mean, you could adopt a different resolution to do that, or you could adopt a motion to have the chair send a letter to council requesting a meeting, something of that nature. I mean, I understand your concern because, I mean, this is an aggressive resolution and intended to be as such. So that there are other ways to meet with council if you prefer.
Ms. Terry, did you have a comment, statement?
Yes and no, I do. So
Okay, let's go with the yes part first.
let's go with the yes.
Yes.
Okay. I can appreciate your desire here. But one of the things that I want everybody to kind of understand is that Portsmouth, these things came out of the budget, absolutely. But I want everyone to understand why Portsmouth may be or is in the position that it is in. It's more so because of income, that we are a surrounding city and we have a poverty level there. When we talk about fiscally strapped, I want people to understand that the only reason, one of the reasons we have such a high tax rate is because that's all the revenue we receive in. We're on the backs of the taxpayers as it is. And, you know, to Ms. McSwain's point, it does feel like an additional penalty to companies that we're trying to get in. We need additional revenue sources, but from my stance, this is not it. And when we talk about additional revenue sources, we have some great things coming in that will generate those things that will be able to take the burden off the taxpayers, that we will be able to function as a normal city where other revenue streams and resources will provide those gaps or fill those gaps for the city. I normally don't give my opinion, but I have to on this, and I'm not in agreement. But that's just my opinion. And I understand the desire, but this is not a one conversation situation. This is planning, this is development. It touches every aspect of where the city would have to address this, not just a council, but it's a bigger picture. Again, I applaud you for your desire to find creative ways. We have some things on the table now that will open that door, but that's just my opinion. And I don't know if Ms. Phillips has anything.
I just want to ask whether Mr. Miller could go ahead and research the legal ability to do this before we even have a conversation beyond this room, to kind of close that door or open it and then continue to have a conversation. I think Ms. Terry's right. This is not something that you react to. This is pretty, you want to have more conversations about this. I would want to know, well, exactly how many of these properties pay payments in lieu of taxes, you know, pilot, P-I-L-O-T. There is some, you do receive some pilot. Exactly what is the acreage at the federal level, the value, I'd like to have some more information about what it is we're talking about before we jump to that conclusion of taxing the roads is a good thing, you know.
I just want to, number one, the resolution more so, from my understanding, is to begin a conversation, not to necessarily say, this is what we are going to do. from the charter perspective, we have the ability to do so. However, as Mr. Miller has said, we need to see whether or not it's legally something that we are actually able to do. I think, number one, and I do commend Mr. Parr, number one, for taking the initiative to want to start the conversation. And I think at this point, we can poll ourselves to see whether or not the direction we wish to move forward, unless Mr. Parr wants to make some adjustments to what you're asking for.
Well, I believe the second item is exactly what Ms. Phillips has recommended. So it could be, I mean, the feasibility study. So it could be that council, we send the email, we do the first item after we've done the second item. We conduct the feasibility study and then request the meeting with council. But we have to do them in order as I've written them.
I mean, I think we can look at legalities at any time. I think that as Mimi said, you're really talking more than just a conversation with council. You're talking about so many city departments. You're talking about our legislative liaison, Sherry Neal, to understand the implications of all this stuff. So I don't think it would work to necessarily flip it so that it's just PPIC continuing to work on this. But what it seems to me you could do is, you know, I do think the resolution is a bit of a hand grenade to the federal government and the state government, everybody else, and maybe that's the intent to lob a hand grenade. But it seems to me that if you could hold off on adopting the resolution, you could meet with council, ask to meet with council, chair sends a letter or something of that nature, see how that discussion goes, and then you're more prepared for what may come next.
With that being said, would it be feasible for us to find out, do we have the legality to do so first? So then when we are having the conversation with council, we actually know what our legal premise is.
We can check into the legalities of it. There may be some follow-up questions about what exactly, the intention is. So, in fact, I'm sure there will. We'll need to know.
So do we need to already, from the initial onset, involve other departments within the city to really be able to look at this?
To really get anywhere, then yes, I think you would
So,
need to.
I mean, and council controls those other departments, planning, budget, et
Actually,
cetera.
the city manager does.
City manager, well, yeah, right. And the city council oversees the city manager.
And it seems to me the Economic Development Authority needs to be plugged in. It could be a topic for a future joint meeting.
It could be. I also think that mentioning the city manager is a pertinent point also. And maybe there's a subcommittee of PPIC sits down with the city manager because you're correct, she does have the administrative control of the departments, is crucial in interfacing with council and implementing directives of council. So perhaps that's a way to go.
What if we developed an ad hoc committee, and of course, Bracy, I would like to see you serve on that, to have the conversation with the city manager in regards to the desire for what you're listed in the resolution. In the meantime, we find out the legalities of what we're actually able to do. So then there's two simultaneous things happening. So while you're having a conversation, you may gain more information from the city manager's office that we may not know now that you could bring to the table. Meanwhile, you're finding out whether or not we even have a legal standing to do tolling at this point. Would that be a fair compromise? And then we hold off on adopting the resolution. If anyone else would like to serve with Mr. Parr on that ad hoc committee to have the conversation with the city manager first, as she is the CEO of the city. to move forward and finding out which departments need to be involved, what is her position, and making sure that we get all the pieces in place so that we can also, you could also be the buffer to having the conversation also with economic development so that we're all on the same page of what the desire is from the resolution. Then we find out the legal standing. And then if we choose at this point to move forward, if we have that legal standing to have the conversation, then moving forward with city council.
As to not create another ad hoc committee, could we just assign that to the financial services ad hoc committee?
I
don't
think
think
the
that makes sense
financial
now.
services ad hoc committee was a totally different situation. Ms. Terry?
May I just make that just seems. So if I may make a suggestion, the first thing before you start spending all this precious time to allow Jeff the opportunity to find out if you even have the authority. And if so, that's just an email to you all. And then the next thing, to schedule a meeting with the city manager doesn't need a committee. You can just, as you mentioned, just choose who you want, schedule a meeting, and have that conversation with her. I think the first step is to even see if you're able to do it. And I guess another step would be if you all even want to. I mean, I don't know if you already took a vote or if you all decided that this was completely where you wanted to go. But I think because this was supposed to just spark a conversation based on my understanding, I think just find the legality of what you're trying to accomplish. And I mean, there's not even, we're talking about amount set. I mean, it's bigger than, to me, this. And so just starting the conversation to me and just understanding your point of what you can and cannot do from a legal perspective would determine next steps. I think if you're moving too fast and everybody's doing parallel, it's just, you have better things to do with your time. I think it's just best to start at the initial, this is a desire, and if it's desire of the board, then that's from a legal standpoint, can it be done? If it can be done, you have this outline, you bring it to the city manager, and the city manager can move from there. And then she is the one, she is the glue that keeps all that together. So I think that would be my suggestion for the board. And you meet once a month, so you have enough time.
I'm fine to substitute my motion to defer this and go along with Ms. Terry's suggestion, if it's the consensus of the other commissioners.
How long could we expect to have some clarification on what our legal standing is?
I think you're looking at some complicated legal issues here. And I don't know there's going to be a case that's right on point that says bingo. So I think we're looking at least until next month's regular meeting. But we will pursue it.
Okay.
Do we need to get a consensus of the board if we want to move forward with this?
But we never finished the motion of moving
right.
forward on the resolution.
I
So
substituted.
we actually didn't have the motion
Right,
for
no,
a
there
second.
was no
So
second.
technically,
Right.
nothing has happened with the resolution as of yet, correct?
Yes, yeah. I've lost track, but there was.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did move.
I put across it.
Motion, yeah, I think Park made a motion, but we didn't get a second, and then Ms. Swain spoke, so.
So it died.
She didn't even get it out.
Yeah.
I made sure she didn't get it out.
So actually, there was no motion because as I started to speak, that's when Ms. McSwain said that she had a concern. So there was never a motion on the floor to adopt the resolution. So actually, we do not have to move forward with anything in regards to the resolution because the motion was never moved or seconded. It actually never really made it to the floor.
So this would just be considered a report back to the board.
Correct.
Sorry, Jeff.
What are you talking about?
More work.
Okay.
Well, that's
So-
important.
Any other items submitted by commissioners?
Well, I just want to ask, Jeff, do you feel like additional monetary assistance for additional staff to help you research this would be effective? Not saying that you would not be able to do it, but just based on Ms. Terry's comment, I'm not sure you see this as valuable.
No, that's not fair. We have, and I don't mean to cut in front of you, please don't misinterpret my words. Jeff is an attorney for the city as well.
Right.
So it's just not this board that
Right,
needs Jeff's
that's why I
attention.
asked if he needed
If you
additional.
allow me to finish. We have outside counsel that we reach out to for specific things. And this may fall under that, which is already covered by the city. Because this is a desire of the board to have additional information, please don't take what I say out of context. This is a conversation because I know his plate is full with some additional things that I've asked. Now, if he would like, I'm sure could use outside counsel for this, that would not cost this board anything because it falls under the city. Was that probably an appropriate question? Because I don't think the PPIC can give him any money to do that, but I do know that the city has outside counsel and outside.
We can, yeah, thank you. We can potentially retain some outside counsel. There are some city funds, but if we were to retain outside counsel, we could potentially come back to the board and ask the board to cover that cost. But I really need to get my head around the scope of all the things we need to look at before we make a call.
It's a very specialty area. Yeah.
Yes.
And thank you for the work you do. Sorry.
No problem. Is September long enough? I mean, I'm a realist.
That's what I was
You know
about
what
to
I'm
ask
saying?
as well. Is that feasible of a time frame for you to be able to report back to us? I don't want to pigeonhole you into a time frame that's not realistic as well.
I will certainly report on progress in September. I can't guarantee that we'll be
Fair enough.
complete with anything.
Fair enough. Any further discussion on this topic? Any further discussion on items submitted by commissioners?
I'm sorry, please forgive me.
No need to apologize.
I'm a veteran, and it kind of is hurtful to me. I'm just gonna put it out. This resolution was hurtful to me, to think about charging people that's working for the government a toll. I don't know if y'all served in the military. I know you have,
I have.
but it was hurtful. First, it's not your fault because you don't know. But when you've actually served and you have to go to work and then you got another toll coming and going, that's something, you know. So I don't know what you're gonna come up with. I already know how I'm gonna vote on it. Either way, you know, I just wanted to put that out.
So the intention is not for every installation to be told, especially private citizens. Private citizens that go and work at our veterans, currently serving people, pay tolls now to be able to get to work from the Midtown and Downtown Tunnel. The biggest issue looking at here is Dominion Energy putting the everything going on the PMT.
Offshore wind.
Yeah, the offshore wind project. It was in no way meant to be hurtful to our service members. Absolutely not. It's not meant to increase the burden on private citizens, but rather look at state-run corporations like Dominion Energy, state-run facilities, which are not businesses, but rather, you know, state-run, federally run. We all know that the port loses money. The
So
port doesn't.
I'm sorry, who are you trying to apply the tolls to then? So
I
you're
think
saying,
that's the point, that's a
that-
moot point
that
until we are
there's
able
no-
to even see if we need
yeah.
to have that conversation.
I don't want to discuss that right now because that would be something for closed
okay.
session. But this is to start in no way, shape or form, Commissioner McSwain, did I
I
intend
guess
this
it would be
to
hard for me to
hurt
vote on
veterans.
this without knowing that
Hmm?
too. I said it would be hard for me to vote on this without knowing that too.
Well, the purpose of the
Right.
resolution, again, was to start a conversation, but at this, because I think we're focused on the abilities that the charter has given us to tax. However, just because the charter says that we can, there may be legal precedent that we're not able to. So that's why we've asked that we have our legal precedent set so that we understand if we're not able to tax, then this is all a moot point because we're not going to be able to tax anybody. So understanding what our abilities is and protocol would be helpful to kind of move the conversation forward. And if it is decided that we do have the capabilities to tax, we would have to vote whether we go for it or not. And although we may be able to do it, if it's a consensus of the majority of the board that that's not something that we're interested in doing, we will then vote no for it and move on from there. But I think it's important that we understand where we are from a legal standpoint and move forward from there. That way we're not getting caught into the minutia of we're taxing this and not this. Who can we tax? Who can't we tax? That does come into the pay in lieu of taxes. I am very familiar with that as well. So absolutely, there's other options that we need to find out first, and that's the whole purpose of our discussion on this. So I look forward to hearing from legal what we can and can't do, and then we can have another robust discussion. I appreciate everything that was shared here today. It gave me some further insight that I need to think of as well. And I'm pretty sure there'll be additional questions that we'll all need to come together with from our own various standpoints. Did anyone else?
An additional item, the closeout letter from the EPA for Crofton diving, were we able to attain a copy?
We just received it last night.
So we can expect a copy this afternoon?
Yes.
Thank you. Any further items? Okay, thank you everyone for this morning. Again, we are going to have our special call meeting on September 7th at 9 a.m. And then moving forward, the Portsmouth Port and Industrial Commission will now meet at 9 a.m. Everyone enjoy your day. Stay safe.